Hello and welcome to Gierok Farms. You're watching part 2 of the Q&A that we did a while back. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll link it up above so you can click that and go back and watch part 1 so you know where we left off. But we are going to continue on answering your guys' questions. So thanks for watching and I hope you guys enjoy the video. First one here, what are some books you would recommend to those interested in starting a farm or actively starting one? I can't think of any books offhand that would lay it all out nice.
I'm sure there's a lot of stuff, but there's so much variety. You can be from hobbying, like vegetable gardens, to just dairying, then just calves and chickens. Oh, that's all over the place.
Yeah, I think the best way to learn about this industry, if you're someone that isn't part of it, would be, try to get a job on a farm or go to field days or even events like the dairy breakfast if you're pretty green to it, and
that's a start.
Just see it. Yeah,
that's a start. I mean, you're right. Going actually working that, if you were really thinking about getting into more of a where you would be, that would be your income. You're right. Working on a farm, and then keep telling yourself when things aren't right, how would you handle them? And put yourself in the boss's shoes all the time.
Look at the good and the bad.
Because it's not all glory, and it's the best place in the world to raise children. It took me a long time to realize just how lucky we are after this world really starts getting not so sure of things. We are in the best place in the world right now. It's we have everything we need out here.
Yeah, I think the past couple of years, I think a lot of people are realizing that the homesteading, the farming life is a good life to have.
It's a lot of work, and what happens is now our schools and everything, the wedding is always at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hour, and I'm kind of okay with that. I'm proud to go home and put a ton of milk in the tank and then come back and then tell these people, where were you? And I'm like, well, I was busy feeding the world. I wasn't just doing something that wasn't so, maybe not so necessary. So
that being said, there's a good in between for work life.
You gotta love it.
So, but yeah, as for books, I can't think of any offhand. You could, if you.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know there's books out there for veterinary care and animal.
We used to get, like when I started here, the people I would be getting my minerals and my calf feeds from and stuff. I had questions about calf care, and even my veterinarians that pick his mind. That was a good one for us on animals. They get the updated version of what the studies are telling us and how to start out new calves and stuff. But they did, and Horde's Dairyman, that would be a good place. They do offer some stuff. Come to think of it, yep, they do. There's some different areas, whether it's milking cows or raising heifers or something in that area.
I got a good one. If you're in any state that has any kind of agriculture, they most likely have like an extension office. And I know when I was in school, there was a bunch of different literature you could get. So if if you're in the state of Wisconsin, you'd call up the UW extension office and you'd ask if I could get some literature, and they got everything from the soil in the state of Wisconsin and different practices over the years and the benefits and all the pros and cons of certain practices and things like that. And then also they have things like Excel sheets where you could map out your inputs and your expenses.
It all depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because I know like our county seat has an ag agent, and they got different terms for these guys. But so in your own county, if there's agriculture around you, there's usually somebody that's appointed to so-called help you with the questions or point you to the resources. And they would send us stuff. And in these last few years, we've been getting a lot more of that, where they'll got like a field day and maybe cover crops, for instance, or on cattle care, or it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what I think the farmers or the newer farmers or someone that's not so familiar is asking. So you're able to go to these meetings or these field days or on a farm someplace, a host place. Like we did a soil meeting here about 6 years ago.
Yeah, an event like that would be a great way to get a general overview
the county,
taste if you weren't familiar with all that.
The county came here and asked us, and I said, sure, I'll represent our county as far as what they want to show.
I think just figuring out the terminology would be the biggest thing. I know for us it probably seems like nothing, but
it's every day.
Yeah,
we're living it. So.
But yeah, that'd be a good couple resources to check out. If money was infinite, what would you most likely upgrade on the farm here, or what would you purchase?
Maybe you should answer that
Well,
first.
yeah, I can. Being a young guy, I can think of a lot of stuff to buy.
Good ideas.
Being someone that works more on the crop side of the industry, I could think of a bunch of equipment I'd love to buy. Obviously, the big one though, long term would be land. As someone young in agriculture, if I could get acreage, that would be a huge thing.
Just to find it for sale, and then in that area that you're settled down in already, or
find
what?
some good soil and
That's hard. And then back when we started in '91, a lot of foreclosures. There was a lot of options, but farming wasn't so appealing. It was kind of not the. It was almost better to working down and.
But yeah, if money was infinite, that would be the first thing, would be land, it'd be acreage. And then equipment-wise, the upgrade, I think we got a lot of 7 Series. I'd maybe get something a bit bigger, like an 8 Series, some more horsepower.
Get some experience with those electronics when they're not so right.
Yeah. I get like something like an 8110 or something bigger like that. And then corn planters in this area, I don't think you'd want to get bigger than a 12-row. I think that's the biggest you'd want to get.
Yeah, even on this farm, that would be. You would be maybe not. You would want to try it.
Yeah.
But that's.
Yeah, and then combines would be kind of the same thing. You would want a combine that could handle a 6-row or a 12-row head.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that would be if money was infinite. Can you think of anything?
Well, like with me, 25 years ago, I would have had 50 things, but we're kind of over that hump now, and I start realizing owning more equipment, it's kind of more work maintaining, keeping it right and stuff, and then learning it again. It almost gets overwhelming. I guess the round baler would, they're not for nothing. Yeah. Land, of course. I mean, but it would have to fit what I already have. Otherwise, that's something you guys would sooner be better off because we have it, and so I don't. I don't really. I mean, I think I would be getting in something outside the farming box. There would be something besides agriculture, maybe buying. Because I'm getting closer to that. You're starting to think about what am I going to do when I'm not able to do what I'm doing now. Yep. So.
Are there many rocks on your hills? Are you thinking about ever doing a dairy breakfast again someday in the future?
Well, we did the first dairy breakfast in '05. And I remember being at one that was for a different county, but it was close to us. And then on the way home, I told my wife, I said, you think we could ever do this? I think we could do this. And I always figured we had too small of a farm, for parking and maybe to have this whole thing set up and then getting people in here safely and things like that. And that year, that was already towards fall. We were starting to really seriously think about this. And they didn't have a farm for the next year, our dairy committee. So anyway, they did accept us, and I loved every minute of it. I thought it was a great way to represent the dairy industry and to show that being a smaller dairy, even back in '05, can be successful. I had a lot of older generation coming up to me and saying, hey, this works too. And then, of course, we did it in, 2019.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted more you guys to be part of it and, showing your faces and doing more of the...
Yeah, it would have been one of those last years where all of us kids were still living here.
Right,
so.
right. We were the last one before the COVID thing, because I think in 20 we didn't have one. They didn't allow that. But again, I think maybe, but I think one of you guys would have to head it up.
Yeah,
I think it would be best.
If we're going to keep dairying here, I would foresee that, especially now with less and less dairies. They're always looking for a farm to host it. I know a bordering county, they just had it at fairgrounds this year because they couldn't find a farm for this year that wanted to do it.
So I think we did it. I don't know if we were up to something like 30, if it's 30 or 36 or 38 years. I'd have to look at the paper again of doing dairy breakfasts in this county. And two different years they didn't have a farm. And like you said, and the numbers were way down. I mean, you can go to the fairgrounds during fair time and not a dairy breakfast. But And the tough thing with that today is for instance, to make a legal place to feed people on an active dairy farm
that's hard.
There's a lot of gray areas in what's okay and what's not, and we really think a lot of that through, and there gets to be a lot of questions about handicap parking and a lot of things in which we'd love to make it right for everybody that could want to come. But again, everyone has to think this is an active dairy farm, not the county, park, so they have to accept the fact that it's not all paved and set up for people.
Yeah,
But
so-
I think it would be nice to see it again.
Yeah, so to answer that, to sum it up, it's possible that could happen again in the future. And then for the rocks on the hills,
Well, the rocks, this farm, very little, some sandstone ones, and it's just a few isolated areas. And if we don't till those hills very often, so you might get some, like where we put the new seating this year, if you watch that video, there's kind of more of a shale up there, just on the knob, just a couple spots, and if I pick them, I'm good. Up here, the bedrock, a few places, and there are pasture fields. I mean, for the building them rock walls, I took the pallet fork and popped a few of them out just so they didn't have to be scraping against the machines.
But I'd say all in our area, it's not that rocky.
So we live in an area where there's ridges not too far from us, and you get up there and that stuff, they're very jagged, almost look like something volcanic. That's they got names for that stuff, but they're extremely hard. And there's definitely night and day owning one of those fields over. That's where a lot of that no-till practice makes more sense, to not just bring those rocks up any more than you have to.
Yeah, with my job, I get around a lot. I was at a place maybe 3 hours north of here, 2 hours north of here, and it was leveler ground, but it was super rocky up there. And one of the farms had a sign, "We raise the best rocks in the county," or something like that.
Were they the round ones? The smooth round?
There were a lot of rocks. Someone asked again, what do I do as an off-farm job? So Dad doesn't have one. And then I work in the agronomy industry, running machinery.
Seems like you could get a job just about anywhere if you're got some, cattle background, or if you want to milk cows. It seems like, I mean, it's a tough thing to find someone that wants to do it for someone else.
Just ag in general. If you want a job and you're interested in agriculture, there's a lot of jobs out there.
Especially if you're an operator. People want to drive tractor. They come to me all, I want to come out and drive tractor. I'm like, I don't need a driver. I need an operator. And that's where you've gotten some experience now working for agronomy, and you can put guys like him up on those hills and with your $100,000 and $200,000 machines, and they all come back okay.
Oh, those are the cheap ones. No.
Yeah, but it's hard to find experience. So you got agriculture experience. You can, between the cattle and the field, you're probably, you could be set up. You'd be on top of anyone else they'd find, more likely.
Yeah, if you're a young person interested in agriculture, there's plenty of jobs out there. That's for sure. Someone must be a Massey Ferguson fan. They asked why we don't have any Massey Fergusons on the farm.
We never grew. I don't know. We have a dealer not too far from us. I know one friend of mine. His dad was all John Deere, and then he took over things, and he bought a Massey, and then it was just almost get kind of sick of hearing about it. But I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with them. Yeah. The old ones seem to have that vintageness, don't they? Yeah. They're always kind of a big thing on an auction or something to try to get.
I think in farm communities and the colors you're seeing the most of, and the loyalty there comes down to the closest dealer or the closest dealer in the past. Because right now, obviously, it doesn't matter as much who's the closest, because everybody's ordering parts from all over the world, and yeah. You can get any color tractor you want shipped to your farm. But back in the day, it was probably more handy to have your local shop.
Well, like a place over the hill from here, it was all Oliver.
Yeah.
But the dealer was right down in that valley, and when we were kids, we didn't quite get it. Why is that one? But then if the guy moved out of that area into our valley, he brought all that with him. So he was between the International or John Deere guys. A lot of comedy got out of that.
Yeah.
Everybody's was the best, I guess.
So I think the big thing was location. Speaking of location and like farmers choosing to do business in certain places, I know over 30 minutes east of us, there's still a lot of ridges, and I've heard of where guys won't take their grain to certain grain sites because they'd have to cross a ridge. Obviously now with our trucks and stuff, it's a lot easier to get there, but I've heard some guys with older equipment and older farms, they'll stay down in the valley and go to that grain site instead of trying to pull it a full load up and over the hill to get to the grain site that actually might be closer, but the terrain plays a big part in where you do business.
It's heavy stuff.
How bad has rising input cost and dropping commodity prices affected your upcoming equipment upgrades and any building expenses or anything like that? How has it affected your decision making?
Well, we had a lot of our big purchases and our big changes were years ago already. But even now, when things got so unsettled, you're right. We really held back. We decided because it's almost like no one could even give you a price on something unless they actually ordered it. And even then, sometimes they still couldn't give you a definite price because then they didn't even know if they could even get it. In every area, all the way around. Just simple upgrades and parts and stuff. So it's starting to settle out a little bit more where everything's trying to work again. But we definitely are a little more cautious. I mean, but we're established. We've been established for a long time. But I can't even imagine someone starting out. Because like, for instance, our milk price has been swaying. Even our meat price. I mean, you can go from getting double for a cow and next week virtually nothing, and the same with the calves, and the milk was doing that too. And so my philosophy comes down to, until you got the money in your hand to actually purchase, don't purchase. Another statement I've heard in agriculture, and it made sense, starting out is one thing, borrowing money and getting going, but to grow your business, maybe any business, you need to do that with cash. I mean, otherwise, the instability of your markets, nobody knows tomorrow. The milk that we produced this morning, we do not know for sure what we're getting for it. Mm-hmm. It's until that check shows up here, you're only vaguely, so you got to have the money.
Yeah, the volatility plays a huge part in decision making on a farm.
And then it's okay. So if the money's there and it's paid for, even though it maybe not been the best decision, or you wouldn't have made as much as you thought you were going to making those big changes, at least you don't have a payment to a financial institution to make.
As for the increase in input cost, I think all the major inputs like land and equipment, Dad has been good because he's established, so he hasn't had those.
I didn't have to.
Huge price gouges that you would now if you were, like if I were to go buy new equipment, it's quite a bit more expensive than it was 4 or 5 years ago. So it pays off being established and being debt free. I think
you can get to that point. This business can be wonderful, because that's a huge worry on a lot of minds.
Even with the input, or even with the market fluctuation.
Even if you don't have a penny to your name, if you don't have payments to make, so if you're going from check to check, but when you got things that have, they call it cash flow. And I find I used to sell a lot of heifers and things to different farms that were trying to grow all the time to catch up with what they spent. So they spent the money, and now they have to grow to make the money that they've already spent, which it's kind of backwards to me.
And then this is my opinion. I don't know if Dad shares the same opinion, but when it comes to buying things, it's buy hard assets, don't buy short-term assets. Like, it's one thing to have cattle and equipment, but those could be worth nothing, tomorrow if something were to happen. But your land is most likely going to hold its value. Right. So,
like my older equipment, like my bale racks, chopper boxes, that stuff. I got a feeling and when that gets to the point, if we would ever liquidate that would bring pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, but sometimes I've heard old farmers say this, that land also doesn't put food on the table. You gotta bring in some kind of cash. You gotta cash flow somehow, because land's a good investment, but
it would have to get sold to make sense at the end. But there's really not a total wrong answer. But it can be a real tricky thing. I think the thing is I believe even it's not how much money we make here. It's how much money we don't have to make. I mean, I've known farms that they were bragging about their milk production and their genetics and they were buying huge stuff. And on the outside looking in, you kind of thinking, how do they do that? And then in 6 or 8 years, they're selling out. And then the real story comes out later. So it's not always, what you see is what really is. Yeah. So to me, it's almost better. I would rather be, simple and small, and maybe not have the newest and the latest model of something, and know that it's yours. So we could stop tomorrow, and I would not have to talk to a bank or something in that order. We could change what we're doing, or have less cattle. I could milk less cattle. I mean, you guys are almost all out of the nest. Got a couple brothers here yet, but they're pulling their own weight already.
Yeah, so to sum up the answer to the question, so Dad isn't worried about the market and what's going on because he's established and because he's not worried about expanding or growing right now. As for a young individual in ag, I know that before I'd ever make any big financial decisions, it'd be all penciled out. It'd have to make sense. It'd have to cash flow, or it'd have to be land where it will hold its value. So,
especially when you're borrowing, you're going to
I'd
be
have to
borrowing,
borrow
but
money.
the further you borrow, the more you better make sense.
The more risk you have.
I mean, I remember back when I was 24, we must have looked at 30 different farms, my wife and I, and that was before we were married, but I knew that's what I was going to do. I have 6 brothers, and I'm the third from the youngest. And where I grew up, I mean, I would have been farming with one of my brothers. There's probably no way it would have worked out the way it needed to. But I was scared, and I had a couple opportunities to buy, but I was just, maybe I was 19 and I don't know. And there's so much uncertainty. There was a lot of foreclosures back in the late 80s. And my dad kept reminding me, he said, you try to get something only worth this, not that. Because he's seen those nice places go under because of that. But anyway, that helped us a lot. Being scared meant we were really thinking it through. We didn't just say, oh, this is all going to be great and everything's going to be fine. I think sometimes that fear helps you.
So we try not to overextend ourselves to sum that up.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, that's been the Q&A. I know we didn't answer everybody's questions. There's plenty of them out there, but this one we've answered quite a bit today. And I want to thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate that. Also, we wanted to remind you guys to leave more of your questions down below in the comments on any of the videos. We always enjoy reading them, and we'll have to do a Q&A again, maybe this winter or next spring or something
we'll do
like
more.
that.
I've noticed a lot of you can tell a lot of you viewers are from totally different areas, and I try to keep that in my mind. That how would they know? They ask a question to us, it's kind of like, what? Why would you ask that?
But it's great to see, though. It's
Yeah,
great to see
it
people
is.
from all walks of life or
But-
different parts of the world. And
After doing this for I'm here 31 years now with my wife. After doing this long, and I've always enjoyed educating, I believe this is a great way, especially with the times we're in, where we used to get the kids out here all the time to 4K, sometimes the agriculture class, and it didn't matter what we were trying to show them. I was always open to that. But this is another great way to put these videos in the classroom. There's something, we try to keep it positive.
yeah, we're happy to teach people about agriculture or show everybody what we're doing out here.
Right now, we're probably, I think the farmers are less than 2% of the population. I mean, I would love to see those statistics be accurate again, but that's the consumer. And what I've noticed in milking cows in the last 3 to 4 years, the paperwork that's coming at us for us to assure that what our milk is and how our cattle are treated and how we're following all these practices, it's like the consumer wants to know every detail. And to me, it's really kind of an insult to I've done this for 30 years. This is all we've ever known. And for someone that is on the outside looking in. And it's all about trying to sell our products as cheese and the consumer feeling safe buying it. But
Advocating for egg, that's what we're doing.
and that's right. We're trying to say this is what we're doing out here.
Anyways, like we were saying, thank you all for watching. If you guys enjoyed, hit the thumbs up button. Also, make sure to check out our other videos. If you want to see more of us, you can also check out our social media pages like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And if you want to send us something, you can send it to our P.O. box. We'll have that down in the description as well. But any final remarks?
It's like you said, we get a lot of positive comments coming back, and I think that encourages us to keep going.
We thank you all for that.
We realize that we're doing a good thing for the world and for the people that are viewing. And a lot of the old timers, I just love you guys. It brings back big memories. I can almost start putting myself in those same shoes when I think back of how things were when I started until now, and it's great.
But yeah, thank you all for being part of the channel and commenting and watching the videos. But we're going to end this one off, and we'll see you in the next video.